Hey, I'm Brian. Becoming a dad isn't easy. I'm a father of three, and early on, I would always avoid the toughest questions that would linger deep inside of me. Questions I think, if I addressed, would have made me a better father early on. But that's the past, and now I have a chance to fix that. And I hope by answering some of these questions, it can help another dad out there. So, am I the only one still struggling? The one thing I've learned out of fatherhood is that you don't quite know the other person's situation. And when you start comparing, your state of mind or state of emotion with how you're currently doing versus theirs, it, it can be quite lonely and it can be quite disappointing. Um, I know for me, when I had my first son 5 years ago, around this time, the 2 month mark, I would compare notes with my friends. I would just check in on with how they were doing, and they would check in with me. Right? We all had kids around the same age. They had kids a couple months older than ours, and when someone asks you that, and you say, yeah, it's going well, it's going good, right? You give them pretty unsophisticated answers, right? Just to keep the conversation going. But with this specific time, I felt more, when a friend of mine asked me how you're doing, I just couldn't lie to him, right? I just couldn't hide it. I couldn't just disguise it anymore. I say, yeah, I'm not doing that great, man. I'm not doing that great. I'm having a tough time. I'm struggling. I can't get any sleep. I'm always anxious. My relationship with my wife isn't the best. I'm a little angrier than I'm used to being. I'm just not a. I just don't feel like I'm the best version of myself right now, right? And then when he responded back and said, "Oh, okay," and I asked how he was doing, he was like, "Yeah, we're doing okay. We're getting the hang of things, and things are going well. Baby's doing well." And he didn't offer much more context, but I assumed our situations were similar, right? I assumed we were doing the same things, and I think that's the key, right? Every every dad's got their own version of fatherhood, right? And what I did in that situation was I was evaluating my happiness and my enjoyment over how much easier someone else was having it. And I felt vulnerable in that moment, right? When you're sharing your struggles, and the other person isn't in the same situation, like you feel, I don't know, man, you feel bad about yourself, right? For lack of a better word, right? You feel bad about yourself, and then things just snowball, right? Um, but then we met up with them. I want to say a little while later, you know that same friend, and then another friend who's got a child as well, and so it's three couples and three kids, and we were just discussing fatherhood and how things were going with our baby, and you come to realize that that same friend that was saying things were going well, um, you come to find out that they're just sleeping in a different room, right, from their wife and baby, and not to say that that's wrong, right? Everybody's got their own situation, work schedule. I'm not here to lament anyone for not sleeping with their wife during that early stage, but it was more so he had his different battle, right? Maybe that battle was maybe he had responsibilities elsewhere, and he was, I guess he had a different battle, right? Like, everyone's got their own fatherhood. Everyone's got their own definition of fatherhood that they want to experience, right? And, his version might been easier from my perspective, but I shouldn't hold that against him, and I shouldn't hold that against me, right? And I think that's the thing that we have to remember, is that, fatherhood is so broad, right? Like, you can, you're a father, and that means you've brought someone into this world, but aside from that, like, what you want it to be is up to you, right? And in my situation, I wanted to help my wife. I wanted to be in the room, and that meant I struggled a bit, right? Because I didn't sleep that great, and I was a bit more involved in the nighttime, and he wasn't, right? But he might have been more involved during the day. He might have been staying at home with his wife while I was working, right? Like, everyone's got their own different situation. I think that's the thing that I want you to get from this, is that everybody wants to get something different out of it, right? And I chose that battle, right? I wanted to do the nighttime routine with my wife. I wanted to be in the same room with her at night. I wanted to support her, and that was a personal decision. And I struggled. And would I choose that struggle again? Absolutely, right? Because I think it made my relationship with my wife stronger. I think it bonded with the baby a bit more. It made me uncomfortable, and I think I grew as a person as a result of that experience. But that was the battle that I wanted, right? That was the experience that I wanted. And, if somebody else wants to take the easy route from their perspective, that's fine. But that's what they want, right? Or someone wants to even take a harder approach and actually, nurse the baby at night, do the whole 9 yards. That's fine too, right? But that's the thing, right? Like, you choose your own decisions, man. Right? You choose what you want to get out of fatherhood. And but I'll tell you this, one thing I've learned in life is that you don't get a lot of reward without some of the struggle, right? You don't, you're not having tough times in fatherhood. You tend not to enjoy the happy moments more, at least from my perspective. If it's all good, I've come to realize 5 years later, when it's all good, when fatherhood's all happy and no struggle, no challenge, it just doesn't feel right. And I think I have that early experience to lean on in terms of, I just struggled, man. And my first mistake was ever comparing myself to anybody else's battle, right? Because the worst thing you can do is go on Instagram and just see all the good moments, right? They never show you the bad moments, man, the struggles, right? Because that's the stuff that's real, man. That's the stuff that I go through, right? We all go through, and that we never talk about. I've been there, man. I've slept like only an hour a night, right? I've been spit on, vomited on. I've been peed on, right? Blow a diaper on my shirt, right? Like, that's struggling, but I want that, right? I wanted that battle. I wanted to do that. And so, choose your own battle, man. Choose your own battle. Embrace your own struggles with that battle, and don't ever. You won't enjoy fatherhood as much if you start comparing yourself, man. Just don't do it. Pick your own battles. Enjoy your own journey, and because it's a long one, man. There's no race to finish it, right? Yeah. So if you enjoyed this video, follow along. I really hope it help the new dad out there that's watching this.